Next, we'll explore medium contrast using a light source from below the face, which gives an unconventional, slightly eerie look. For medium contrast, pick a highlight that's a few steps lighter than the base tone and a shadow value that's a few steps darker. This will create a more defined effect than low contrast but won't be overly intense. With light coming from below, add highlights on the planes that face upward. This includes the underside of the chin, the bottom planes of the nose, and the lower portion of the cheekbones and brow. This area should have a distinct medium bright that adds a sense of form without being overly harsh. This lighting angle creates a dramatic, intense look. The medium contrast keeps the effect balanced, making it suitable for more realistic or moody character designs without appearing overly exaggerated. And finally, we will work with high contrast and top light source. For high contrast, select a highlight that is significantly lighter than the base tone and a shadow that's much darker. This will create a strong, defined light and shadow areas. With light coming from directly above, place the highlights on the topmost planes like the forehead, tops of the cheekbones, the bridge of the nose, and the top of the chin. This area should have bold, bright highlights that emphasize the geometric structure, and deep shadows on the planes facing away from the light source. This lighting setup gives the face a strong, powerful look, emphasizing the structure and depth. The high contrast creates an impactful, eye-catching style that works well for dramatic portraits or stylized illustration where you want to make a strong impression. After applying each lighting setup, take time to refine and compare the effects. Now we are going to study how high contrast lighting from above affects the structure and the mood of a face. This kind of lighting brings out the lines and details of the face with dramatic intensity. We'll analyze the image of this marble bust, focusing on how light and shadow interact with its dramatic feature. The light in this image is positioned above the bust, casting strong downward shadows and illuminating only the topmost planes. Notice how the top planes of the forehead, the ridge of the nose, the tops of the cheeks, and parts of the upper lip are illuminated. These areas are directly facing the light source and have bright, well-defined highlights. The areas facing away from the light source, such as under the brow, beneath the nose, under the lip, and along the jawline, fall into deep shadow. This strong shadowing carves out the features, emphasizing the form and giving a dramatic sense of depth. I quickly sketch the face, not too precisely because it's not necessary. After that, I apply the mid-grade base, where we will later add lights and shadows. I always start with shadows, but with a tone that's not too dark. I like to build up gradually. First, I use this slightly darker gray, and as refine the shadow details, I'll move toward an almost black gray. Actually, the shapes I'm marking aren't very precise. We can fix them later on. Look at how the brow casts a deep shadow over the eyes, creating a sense of mystery and intensity. In your illustration, apply a dark shadow under the brow ridge and in the eye sockets. This shadowing will emphasize the depth of the eyes and make the brow appear more prominent. The underside of the nose and the area beneath the lips are heavily shadowed, as they are turned away from the light. In the image, these shadows add a clear separation between features. Replicate this by applying deep shadows under the nose and in the philtrum area for a grounded bold effect. The light from above leaves the lower planes of the jaw in shadow. This creates a distinct boundary along the jawline, reinforcing the form and adding a sense of weight to the face. In your illustration, use a dark shadow on the jaw and neck areas to ground the figure and create a sense of structure. If you look closely, you will see that the shadows I'm creating are very soft. This is due to the transition I make between them and the base color. I don't just put a darker color on top, I also blend these colors very softly. Notice that there's a slightly darker value between the base and the shadow, like a thin darker line. Begin by adding a bright highlight to the bridge of the nose. The light travels down this plane, illuminating it sharply. Notice in the image how the nose bridge stands out in contrast to the shadowed sides, creating a clear sculptural effect. Next, add bright highlights to the top of the forehead and cheekbones. These areas should have a crisp, distinctive brightness to show that they are closest to the light. In our example, the forehead is one of the brightest areas, which draws attention and sets up a strong focal point. A smaller, more sharp highlight can be added along the brow ridge and on the upper lip, areas that face upward just enough to catch a bit of light. These smaller highlights add nuance to the lighting without overwhelming the main focal points. When adding the highlights, it's not about placing a bright color over the entire base. Leave space for the midtones. That's the purpose of the initial midway. I enjoy seeing how everything seems to fall into place and how, with the addition of highlights, everything appears to gain volume and look three-dimensional. In high contrast setups, crease edge are key, but subtle blending on some edges can enhance realism without losing the bold sculptural quality. Notice how some shadow transitions are slightly softened, such as the shadow under the nose. This adds a hint of depth without disrupting the strong contrast. In your digital work, lightly soften certain edges within shadow areas to create a smooth transition without making it look too soft. In areas like the brow ridge and jawline, keep edges between light and dark sharp and defined. This sharp transition emphasizes the form and geometry of the face, enhancing the sculptural look. For the other exercise, I followed the same process as before, starting with a quick sketch, adding a mid-tone base color, laying down base shadows, then refining them, making it even darker, then applying base highlight, refining those as well, and adding final touches, fixing some mistakes, etc. Unfortunately, I had an issue with my recording software and this part was cut off. It's disappointing, but I hope that with this brief explanation and the previous demonstration, it's clear. I'm really sorry about decoding the video. Please take note and keep these steps in mind, since it can significantly help you when practicing. And with this practice, we're finished. That's all for this chapter. I hope it was helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.